I'm going to just turn it on. Because do we know what we're talking about?
Well, we talked about sacredness, sovereignty, and then the other thing was when we're just over it. Are you just over it? All right, what happens when you're just over it, whatever it is?
When you're over it, but nothing changed.
Right. Like this Mercury going direct. It's over, but it doesn't feel like anything's changed. No.
We still have in its shadow.
Right. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to In My Experience. I'm Sonya Lee.
And I'm Piperlyne. Did you miss us last week?
Mercury retrograde and stuff. And,
I was discombobulated.
And vacation.
And out of town.
So, sometimes it just happens. You got to miss a week. Yeah. Although it's been a long time since we missed a week.
It has been.
We had a good run
like
for a while.
Fall, I think, last year.
Yeah. So how is everyone? Did you survive Mercury retrograde? Speaking of the retrograde.
Welcome to Mercury being direct. It's still in its shadow through about the middle, I think July 16th is around that time.
Right.
When it moves out of its shadow, and that's when, after it's gone direct, but it needs to move up to the point, the degree that it was when it went retrograde. So that's called a shadow. So the effects or the intensity of Mercury retrograde hopefully are easing off for you if you were feeling that. Not everyone feels it every time.
Sometimes you can get it in the preamble. Sometimes it's, in the shadow, coming out of it. It kind of depends.
Well, yeah, like, with the full moon, I have said repeatedly that in my household is the pre-full moon. It kicks our ass. Right. We don't sleep pre-full moon. Right. We're up, which we were. We were the Wednesday before the full moon. We were up at 2 a.m., girlfriend, and we were going. Not really. We were really sad.
Okay. I would be. There's nothing on TV at 2 a.m. So what, And everybody else is asleep. So what do you do with yourself?
Right. That's work on being very, very quiet so you don't wake up the rest of the house. Right. Basically. That's it.
And so you're like, I get up at 5 o'clock and I get so much done with that hour. As long as you don't have anyone else in the house that's not up at 5 o'clock, in which case I'm severely limited what I can do in that hour. And then others would say, but you can leave the house and go do something. Yeah, I could, I guess, but it's hot outside.
It was always also 90 degrees at 5 o'clock over this past week.
Exactly.
Thank God that has
That sounds like an excuse, but it's not. It's just, I haven't figured out how to make that work yet.
90 degrees at sunrise is it's just still hot. It's just still hot.
It's one of those things that make you go, really? How? Why?
Right.
We couldn't cool down overnight, seriously? It was dark for 14 hours of daylight right now in the northern hemisphere. Right. But that's the other thing. We just had solstice, which happened. We talked about it, but then we went away last week, and then we had this full moon in Capricorn, which is always a good time. My moon's in Capricorn, so it doesn't bother me, but for other people, it's like, ugh. That jerk's back again, trying to tell us to get stuff done. But this full moon in Capricorn was actually a good time to take out that list of things that we might have wanted to contemplate, that we want to bring in, call in, or do in our life over the next 19 years, because we talked about the cycles. There's nothing like a practical, pragmatic Capricorn to help you do your list.
Well, and I did do my list. Yeah. Because I've got Moon in Virgo, so...
There you go, sister, Earth.
Moon in Capricorn, I'm like, they're a little more intense, a little more strict than what I I'm earth.
They just worry a lot. That's all.
But I flow a little more.
Right. But it's that perfection, right?
Yeah.
You know you're not going to do it unless you do it right. And Capricorn's going, did I do it right?
So, but I dove into my list making. Absolutely, I did. Yes. So I participated in that. But here we are.
Right?
Here we are.
And we're talking about, what are we going to talk about today? And, we didn't see each other for a week, so we had a lot of catching up to do. Mm-hmm. And we talked about a couple of different things that we might, go there, touch on them. But one of the things that came up for me this morning that I thought might be kind of fun to talk about is, what do you do when you're just fucking done? When you're just over it.
Right.
It is what it is, and so freaking what? I don't care. I'm done. I'm just done. What does that mean? What does that look like? What do you do with that?
Right.
And is it necessary? I would say yes. I do it often, periodically. It's almost like a cleanse, you know? I just have to have that big buildup and then that fuck it kind of, energy. And then I feel better.
Just by saying it?
It's like a release.
Yeah.
It's like a release. I'm learning as I'm developing more emotional intelligence to one, not let it get to that big powder keg explosion point. So I do a lot of little, fuck it, I don't care.
Right.
Right? But then also just like, really being okay with whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And for a while there, it almost felt like, well, are you just like really just surrendering and giving up? And no, I think it's making the conscious choice to not make a big deal about it.
Well, see, I mean, you said surrendering and giving up. I think surrendering and giving up are different things.
Well, yes, tomato.
But
because you're right.
But that is just me.
Right.
I have actually had that conversation with other people too.
Yeah. They are different, though.
They are different
in the choosing
and the
state of being.
Of it.
Right. One can be a little more empowered than the other one is definitely disempowered.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah. But yes. So what do you? I mean, I can't.
So this Mercury retrograde, right? Like you said, you hoped you never had another one like this. It was visiting your 12th house, which is always a good time. And, it was visiting my 12th house as well. But you've got the North Node there, and I had Jupiter. What was interesting for me is my Jupiter is in opposition to Neptune, which is actually in Scorpio.
Right.
But because of my intersected houses, they happen to be in opposition. And so with them both in retrograde in Pisces, I was just like, I don't know, and I don't care. I'm going to go play. So it wasn't that bad. But for you, it was, well, I'm not going to tell you your story, but
no, it was
a challenge.
It was intense. Mercury in retrograde in Gemini in my 12th house had me, I mean, I got a message, like I said, I put it on my social media, and I got a message, and they're like, get yourself grounded. You're a grown-ass woman.
Wow.
And I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm not grounded at all. I have no idea. I'm not in this. I've been dealing with a challenging situation in my personal life, and I won't go into it, but there was a whole bunch of not being grounded.
Right. Well, in 12th house, man, that's like the house of smoke and mirrors.
Right. And I don't know what's real and what's not real.
It's the house of institutions and insane asylums and prisons.
And it's the house of enlightenment.
Oh, yeah, that's your favorite word these days.
I know.
Too.
I just keep saying that word.
Goosebumpies.
But yeah, so I was really, really in a place of I don't know what's real or not real, and talking about just how shockingly different that was for me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I always make the quote unquote right decisions, whatever those are.
You're very decisive, though.
But I know what's true for me.
Right.
I know what is true for my truth. I don't bother anymore about someone else's truth unless they're actively harming people with that. Right. I don't. Would you believe whatever you want to believe? Or
specifically asking you, please share with me my truth.
Right. Yeah. No. I am not that person. But yeah, so I've always it's always been a place where or maybe not always, for a very long time in my life.
Historically speaking.
Yes. I've just always been comfortable with it. And I learn new things and it changes for me and I'm okay with that. It's a process. But this place I've been, I'm like, I don't even know anything.
That's terrible. We go somewhere, it's like, I don't recognize the street signs.
Oh, yeah. And it takes you twice as long. It's like I think we mentioned a number of weeks ago. You got to turn down the radio because you're lost.
Right. Can't figure out where I'm going.
Because it takes all of your senses just to orientate yourself. Yeah. Orientate yourself. Yeah. So I was like adrift. Adrift with no orientation. So this Mercury retrograde kicked my butt, and I am so glad that it's done. And ironically, I got the message, you're a grown-ass woman, on the day it went direct.
Oh, nice.
So I thought that was...
Here's your parting message
ironic.
As you walk out the door, right? A little smack on the ass.
But yeah, so, and I am done with that. I am so done with it.
And that brought us to the topic.
Right.
What do you do when you're just so fucking done?
Because we can be done, but that doesn't mean it's done.
Right.
Whatever it is.
Right.
And this could literally be anything.
Sure. It could be a relationship. I'm done with that jerk only calling me when he's, bored or doesn't have anything to do with his friends. Or it could be I'm done with this job and this crap-tastic boss I have that doesn't even, he's an asshat. Why do I have to listen to him? Like, some examples, right? Or I could just be done with myself and my own putrid mess of goo. Like,
now, putrid is not a word we say often enough these days.
When you can't stand the stench of your own stench.
Yes, no, seriously.
Then you're done.
Seriously.
Right?
When I cannot hear myself complain or whine or even just cry about something, right? One more time.
Right.
And I can't. Oh, no.
I've been there. I do. I have. I feel, which is like somebody like, how you doing? Oh, God, I'm so sick of myself. I don't even want to talk about it anymore.
So literally, does anyone else feel this way, or is this the Sonya and Piperlyne
right?
thing? Or are we just like...
And I have also found, too, that what I'm learning is that it's not a one and done either. It's almost like, you've got to unlock the key to that door first before you can climb the stairs to get up to the next level. And that only happens when you're ready to throw the key and the lock across the room. Because it doesn't work, right?
And break down the door with the sheer vibration of your screaming voice.
That's right. Yes. And as you threaten anything and everyone within hearing distance with their own demise if they don't get their ass over here to help you. Or get the hell out of your way.
Yes. Anyone else filling us? Oh, yeah.
But that's growth, baby. That's
growth, baby. Grow, baby, grow.
Right.
But then there's those times too, and this is something that I have thought of. Think about those times when everything within you said you were done because you were tired, you were exhausted, you were giving up.
Yeah.
But then you had to get up and do it again.
Yeah.
And the one that makes me think of that, or the situation comes to mind with that, is being a parent.
I was going to say motherhood.
Yeah.
104-degree temperature, but the toddler still wants the Cheerios with
right.
the banana cut up.
Right.
And little smiley faces.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you go to bed and you're screaming in your own internal voice, I am so done, I cannot do this again. And you sleep for an hour, and then you get up and you do it again. And so, and those situations are real. And it's not just being a parent, obviously, right. But that's the screaming, obviously, one to me.
Yeah, that's a parent thing.
Right. And so we live in that situation, too.
And, as we're talking about this, what this really is about, it's a twofer. It is, what do you do? Or have you ever had that experience of I'm just so fucking done? And here's a study in your own resiliency.
When you are fucking done and you stand up again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like the good soldier. You just keep marching on. But that resiliency, and that's been something that's come up a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Because this is what we're learning.
Well, I mean, look at the state of the world. We are in a study of resiliency right now.
Hello.
Right.
Right. 100%. And not everybody is feeling very resilient.
No.
Or want to be very resilient.
Right.
Right? And that's understandable. I mean, we're all at our different points and places, our different pins in the world globe, having our own experiences. But I do feel like the Mercury retrograde, the overarching experience, though, is, because the North Node is in Gemini right now, collectively. Mm-hmm. And so this Mercury retrograde is especially poignant. It's like a Diana Ross song. Do you know where you're going to?
No. Well, I didn't.
Do you like the things that life is showing you?
Do you know?
Right? That's like a pearl right there. And you cannot know and still be resilient enough to keep moving forward. And sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't.
Right. I don't think that there's a single answer, right? It solely depends on the situation, on you, where you're at, what this is. I mean, we talked about a couple of weeks ago the fact that businesses are finding employees don't want to come back to their lower paid, unbenefited type positions that
highly
employees
stressful.
Right. That employees don't want to come back. And you know what? I think this is a real picture of I am done with 100%. That.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing it in the world play out, and then of course as it goes out in the world, it goes out in our internal worlds. Too.
And that makes me think, because I hear a lot of people say, well, why would they want to work, when they're getting an incentive to not with, unemployment or whatever, which most states are doing away with now.
Right.
I still don't see anybody rushing to take these jobs.
Right.
Because I think that was only a piece of it. We as humans here on Earth, in our lovely Taurian ways, feel that money is, for some people, the God, right? It is the thing that makes the world go round. And in the last 18 months, we've had the experience, maybe not quite that long, but we've had the experience of what it is like to live without it, right? Like, to be forced to have to see what that is like. And that's the big thing I see. Like, I talk about, joking about, being like, the old poor rather than the new poor. I got skills and resources. I know how to do without.
Oh, girl, the old poor.
The old poor,
yes,
right?
I have that.
And the funny thing about that is that the same realization came for me, right? Nothing changed, and yet everything changed. And everything that changed was that I recognized how much I allowed unconscious judgments of others, meaning that nobody's paying any attention to me. I just think that they are. I did have a few people that would be, so how are you making money these days? What are you doing for a living these days, right? But for the most part, nobody really cares. But in my own mental construct, if I wasn't showing up, if I wasn't performing, if I wasn't bebopping and scatting, then I wasn't a valid, person on this planet, right? So I had to show up even if it killed me. And I think that I'm not the only
really
one.
Enforces
it
that
really
too.
does here
Absolutely.
in America, absolutely. And so to not have that break, I literally joked with my husband once, is it just terrible of me that I'm actually kind of happy this is happening now? Because now everybody sees what it's like to be me. I didn't have to, and anybody that's self-employed, anybody that's an independent contractor, anybody that's a freelancer, anyone that does contract work, you understand what I'm saying here.
Right.
When you don't have a job where you show up, you sit in a chair or stand at a desk or do whatever for a certain amount of hours and then they give you a check at the end of the week, then you don't know what it is to be to work for yourself. When you work for yourself, you're the boss, you're the chief cook and bottle washer, you're the accountant, you're the payroll, you're the salesperson, you're the toilet cleaner. Exactly. And so can be incredibly stressful, incredibly daunting.
Right.
And one of the weirdest things that happened for a lot of self-employed people is we got included at the table.
Yes.
And literally, unicorn moment here, people.
Right.
Okay?
Seriously.
Because
Someone
in no other world but this bizarro experience of 2020 has ever said, now, here's my conspiracy theory hat going on. I think it was just a way for them to get a really good, accurate count of just how many of us are doing shit on the side. Just saying. And I know that I'm not the only one that feels that way because I know there's some people that refuse to take that money because they didn't want the government to have access to their bank account or to know what they are doing on the side.
All right.
So there's that. To see that people, though, were done, to have the world forced to a stop on you. So you're driving on a bus and the bus breaks down and you're in this tiny little town that you would never go to. Mm-hmm. You would just drive by if you were in a car. Because it's a tiny little town. There is nothing of interest in this town. And now you find you're stuck there. And you've got, ear buzzing, Patrick Swayze, John Leguizamo, and Wesley Snipes there, all in drag. And it is just, to Wong Fu, baby. It's just a festival, right? I completely understand that.
Yeah.
For the first time, they were forced to see a different experience, and they found out, donkey, oh, I made it across the bridge, even though I was afraid. Sometimes you get stuck in a one-horse town, and you learn things, right?
True.
Sometimes you have to just be done to see and know and understand that there is anything else out there.
I mean, I have people that I know personally that are looking, that have moved, are planning on moving, are looking to sell everything, have been working and want to quit their jobs and do something completely different, ending relationships, starting new relationships, quitting their career of 25 years. I mean,
ending their marriage.
There's so much I'm done. There's so much I'm done. And yet there are others that have taken it and have used it to reconfirm whatever it is that they are doing or where they are.
But I still think that they're done too.
They're done, absolutely.
In a different way.
Yes, they're just choosing to do something different about that feeling.
Right.
Yes, I agree with you.
Because I've seen some too where they're like, I wasn't sure that this is what I wanted, and in this time I recognized just how important that was to me. One of the really big points for me through 2020 was the number of animal adoptions.
Yeah.
And that seems kind of silly, but how many people didn't realize how much a pet could impact and how much room they could make in their life for a pet.
Right.
Until that's there. And I don't see, the kennels or things filling back up with these people bringing these dogs and cats back. No, they've now integrated and allowed that living creature to come into their life. And that was kind of I'm done being alone.
Right.
And a pet satisfies just as well, I'm finding.
Right.
Would have never thought that. But,
right.
I mean, it's just one more example of the ways that we could be done with whatever we were pre-February 2020.
Absolutely.
And that's what that was really all about. And then we fast forward to this past month of May, where it's a different kind of done, right?
Well, I think that when you are you are managing a situation that maybe is difficult or uncomfortable, right? Because people are nothing if we aren't adaptive, even if we have, because especially, if the adaptations are slow.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how people end up in really negative situations, because they adapted to the little thing and the little thing. But then it's also helped us to survive, however many years humanity has survived. But so we find ourselves in situations that we can't continue. We can't continue anymore, because sometimes it has to be something very dramatic, which 2020 was very dramatic.
About as dramatic as it gets.
So something on such a large scale. So something very dramatic happens. So we realize that this life that we've been living, we actually didn't even want, or has been hurting us.
Right?
And
how did I get here?
Right. And so now we have this screaming situation that allows us to change. And in that, letting go of everything can be a real explosion of brilliance, right? And you find yourself doing things, you finally open up to something that you never would have considered, or you never would have done.
Yeah. Or you relented on something that up until that point was a real important point for you.
Right.
And then with this shift and change, having that time, and I think this is another big piece of this Mercury retrograde, is I've seen so many people in this that went into the retrograde with one mindset and came out of it with a very different one.
Yeah.
Because through the course of it, new information presented itself, or the information that they thought that they knew was proven to be different or wrong or whatever.
Right.
And then with the new information, then they were able to look at it differently and go, recognize where.
And we still have new information coming up.
Oh, yeah,
too.
We're not done with this.
No.
This was just the first piece.
No.
What did we hear? That we've got 3 of these, and say we had, at the beginning of the year, we had the cardinals that had to go through this, and then just recently, this most recent eclipse, we had the mutable, and at the end of the year, we'll have the fixed, because of course it's going to take a whole year for those fixed signs to relent and give up, because they are resilient or stubborn, depending on how you want to use that word. But again, it's for all of us, right?
Right.
Right now, we all dealing with our own shit personally, and it is all happening collectively.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So it really is like a little romper room, where everybody's got an issue. They're wet, they're hungry, they're tired, whatever. But we're all in the same classroom with the same daycare teacher trying to tend to all of our needs.
Oh, poor them.
Right? And they're done now, too.
And they're done.
And that's some of our guides. Like we were talking about that, too, right? Like, do our guides, do our spirit team, do our people ever just say, and I'm done? Like, I wonder about that. Like, do the angels look at us, look down from wherever their hidey hole is? Because believe me, they ain't telling us where their planet is. They're not dumb. And then just look down and just go, for the love of God, sorry. What are they doing?
Well, that's a classic meme, right? The picture of the angel with her head in her hands.
Yes.
And they're like, yeah, so this is what my guardian angel looks like now.
Right.
So.
And what if it's that we're done with being small? With being human, insignificant,
I think that
stardust.
would be lovely.
And that's really pushing some buttons now, too, isn't it?
Done with not seeing ourselves as important or powerful.
Right. Or sovereign or spiritual.
You go into this culture, specifically the U.S., but it is all over. Mm-hmm. You are not powerful, really, unless you have money. That is the society that we have created, that you are not powerful unless you have money. And all of us could point to a situation where we see that as a truth.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's not a truth. I'm just saying that we have all experienced this.
Absolutely.
Even if we look at billionaires who don't pay taxes, just, even go with that. So whatever it is, we all have this experience. And so it's really been nailed down that we aren't important. We aren't powerful unless we have money. So this drive to have money so that we can have some sense of power over our lives is a huge thing in our fine capitalist country.
Right. And with that taken away,
happened last year, we had to find our power somewhere else. Now,
and
a lot of people
just lost their minds.
Yes. A lot of people didn't do very well with that.
Not even a little bit.
And so we see a lot of craziness going on.
We do.
Right? Because people are like, and then other people, it made them even more powerful. Yes. But for many of us, we're sitting here going, okay, so where the fuck does my power come from?
Yeah.
If it doesn't come from my income, if it doesn't come from my status of whatever, whether
how many
it's
likes I have on my social media.
Exactly. The likes on my social media, the title I have at work, the car that I drive, the house that I can't afford anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. The beautiful body that I couldn't maintain at the gym, whatever. If you don't get your power from that anymore, where do you get it? Because we're all inherently powerful. It doesn't mean, I'm not talking about taking power from other people.
No.
Right? That happens a lot out there, but that's not what I'm talking about. No. I'm talking about your internal power, your personal power, your sovereignty. That. Where does that come from? Because it doesn't come from titles or cars or houses.
And are you there yet?
Money.
Are you done yet?
Are you interested?
Are you done?
Right.
Because that's sort of what the rest of us are waiting on. You to be done with that.
Can we all be done?
Can we all just be done this and move on?
And just see everyone as that.
Yeah. And that is what's happening. I mean, the whole Robin Hood GameStop thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was
I was cheering that on.
David and Goliath. Yes. I'm with you on that. I won't go into my own strategies to,
My nephew made money, I just learned.
Oh, look in there. See?
Yes, he participated and he made some money.
And then the whole Bitcoin thing, which was another, power play. Take it, and some will say it's not faring too well. I personally myself, here comes my tinfoil hat again, see that as just... whenever anything like that hits the big news for me, I'm like, all right, what are they trying to distract us from?
Yeah.
Because there is something more going on than this, right? And especially, too, if I hear anybody that is of any prominence, Elon Musk, talking, and I'm like, all right, so there's the right hand, where's the left?
Right.
And then that, okay, I get maybe in those moments I'm not being the most trusting, but I'm done with having my life told to me.
Right.
By someone that can't relate to me. And that's how I got done and stepped into my sovereign beingness, right? And through that process recognizing that I didn't need to have the money to be able to do that.
Right.
I didn't need to have a Johnson to be able to do that.
No, this is true.
I just needed to make the decision
right
for myself and then act accordingly, like a grown woman.
Grown-ass woman.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what are you done with? How, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are we there yet? It's got a couple of nice things coming through the summer, and we've got a couple of more challenges that are coming as well. And so... Astrologically. So we are... we're still in the process of figuring it out. You know, like I said, some have figured it out. Some have already gone on their way. Others are still just kind of like waking up to the, whatever, coming out of the fog. It's like that Neo moment, right? Where all of a sudden now you're busting out of the cocoon and you're realizing we're all just a bunch of pod people. Or maybe you're just seeing the Matrix, the X's and the O's just kind of flying by you. But it's time to be done, I think. That's my opinion. I think it's time for us to be done and move on to something different. And all the signs point to that.
Right.
I mean, we're in the age of Aquarius now. That's all about rebellion of the people.
Well, and I think, but that in of itself, too, is scary.
Can be. Mm-hmm. Can be.
And that can cause people to pull back and fight and scream for the way that it used to be.
Oh yeah.
And so that's a real thing, and we're seeing that play out too.
Oh, yes, we are.
Right? The harder you push forward, the harder those of us who are interested or are desiring to move forward to be done. There is, I don't know if it's just as many, but there's a good number of people that are pulling the other way, saying, no.
Right.
No, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that.
And that doesn't fall under any particular ideology.
No. It's just a
FYI.
Thing. Right.
There's just some people are more resistant to change than others.
Yes.
And we are most definitely seeing that play out. Makes me think of a situation that just happened. Lynn Manuel, I can't think of what his. Anyway,
Hamilton.
Hamilton, thank you. Yeah.
That's not his name, but from Hamilton.
Yeah. And
yes.
he just did another play, and it was cultural, and he got some backlash on it,
right?
Because he wasn't inclusive enough,
right?
And, I think he handled it brilliantly. He just acknowledged it and said he'll do better next time. What more can you do?
Right.
Like, to me, that was very forward. And I haven't always agreed with everything that he said, but I agreed with that.
Right.
Because, this is where I'm at. This is where you're meeting me. This is what I'm going to take away from this and move on.
Right. I can only create for where I'm at.
Correct. That's such a beautiful way that you put that. Create from where I'm at. I love that.
And so the understanding that maybe he could create from a different place. Mm-hmm. So.
And that's about being done.
Right. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a dramatic thing. See? Now, it's a dramatic thing when we are all tied and attached and wrapped our ego into whatever.
In other words,
it is.
Not done.
Yeah. And the being done is I don't care what my ego says. I don't care if you judge me. I don't care if it looks bad. I have totally been following Free Britney.
Oh. Okay.
And so she came out yesterday and made a public statement, where she spoke of her shame.
Yes.
And her embarrassment.
Yes.
And why she didn't speak out, along with the things that they have. It's shocking to me.
She can't even take out her IUD for...
Right. Right.
But
ask any woman about that, and they're going to have. Now, every
Right.
person should have a problem with
Right.
that, but just about every
Right.
woman is going to agree
Right.
that is a problem.
Right.
But so there is, in watching this, I got a sense of she's done. She's finally gotten to the point where she's gone through enough pain, gone through enough self-hate, and found the courage to make a public statement and say these things that others... that she found shameful.
Is she 40 yet? Because that feels like a 40 thing to me.
I think she's late 30s.
She's coming around the
she's
bend.
She's like
then.
39.
Yeah, because you know how it is, ladies. Once you hit 40, you're like, fuck it, I don't care.
Right, and that could be a thing right there.
Right.
So so she has, and that feels like it's the same thing. She's done with being quiet about this. She's done with pretending that it's okay. And whatever is going on, we don't know everything that's going on. I hope that the truth comes out, and I hope that she is treated justly and fairly.
Yeah.
In
and
whatever
I
that
hope
is.
It's not just a ploy to put her in the news and get some more, revive the career kind of thing. None of you little Britney fans come after me. My tin hat's peeking through my skull cap again. Because let's face it, there are some out there that can be what we would call, attention getters. And there's no better way. I've been watching Flack, so I'm a bit jaded with the whole PR thing.
You've talked about Flack.
I just binge watched season 2 in like an afternoon, and oh my God, it was so good. But they need to come back. But it's really a horrible program, but it's so good. But yes, the jadedness and the cynicism and all of that, the human construct. I can't help but go there because, again, she could have said something. She's been clean and sober for a long time. She could have said at any point, hey, I kind of want to end this conservatorship thing, and she didn't. Who knows? Maybe there was some relief in not having to have that responsibility and let Dad have it. And then now she's like, okay, I think I'm ready. I don't know. I can't speak for Brittany.
Right, I don't know either.
But I do think that it is the perfect example, though, of sort of a collective experience individually. Let me rephrase that. It's a collective viewpoint of an individual experience, and it speaks very much to where we're all at right now, right? So free the Britney in you.
Well, I mean, what rules have been self-imposed, or have you put upon you that maybe you didn't need to?
She's 39. Hello.
39.
She will be 40 this December. And girlfriend's a Sag, which is opposite South Node Gemini. Yes, girl. Yes. Okay,
she's
now I changed my mind. This is not for publicity. She is dealing with her. I am.
The thing is, I mean, even if it was for publicity, unless the entire conservatory, whatever, thank you, is a lie.
Right.
It's still insane.
Right.
What she's experiencing is still insane. And however it works out, I hope that the truth prevails.
I do too. And I would say to her, Brittany, don't be so hard on yourself. Or, yes, you perpetrated an image that wasn't who you are. You're not the only one, girlfriend.
No.
We all do that.
Well, there's a lot of talk. I mean, she started as a star as a child.
Yeah.
So she's been a star, a personality, all of her.
She's had people tell her how to show up her whole life.
Right.
So what does she know to do for herself? She's figuring it out right now.
She's done.
Yes, she's done.
She's done.
I do like the fact that there are actually people out there that are rallying on her behalf.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's kind of good, and I think don't just limit it to a superstar. You see somebody that's in trouble, help them out.
Right.
Stand up for them, support them.
Right.
Because that's important too. That solidarity, that support. We've seen this play out over 2022 in so many ways that I don't even need to mention because we all know what I'm talking about. And for some, that might be a bit challenging, but the reality is that it is forcing a change.
Right.
And change must come.
Right.
What that's going to look like when all of this is said and done, I can't tell you.
Right.
Because they won't tell me.
But it's true. I mean, we are
in shifting tides.
Beyond the point of return.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've been beyond the point of return for a while, but now it's just screaming in our face that we are beyond the point of return.
We're Kansas. We're the point of no return now.
we can't go back.
No.
We can't go back.
And do we really want... Okay, I know there are some... I'm going to say this. I know there are some out there that's like, yes, I do. I really want to go back there. Really? Really? Why? Ask yourself that. Why? Because to me, within that, there's a resistance or a fear. And resistance is probably because of a fear.
Well, the thing that came to me was loss.
Yeah.
Nobody
likes to lose, that's true.
There were a lot of people that lost a lot.
Sure.
Whether it was people that they loved, whether, I mean, things that I talk lightly about, oh, well, you are not the title of your job and so on and so forth, but it's still a loss.
Yes, it is.
It's still a loss. It's a loss when you lose your home. It's a loss when you lose your security.
It's a loss when you lose your sense of identity, or you get told that you're wrong because of your identity.
Right.
Or, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, think about it. Usually we get these things one, maybe two or three at a time. We got 75 things happening consecutively right now.
Yes.
Like,
and have been for a while now.
Right. And we're getting fatigued by it all. And I feel like when you get to that point of done, maybe it is fatigue. Maybe it's sympathy fatigue. Maybe it's woke fatigue. I don't know what it is.
Right.
But whatever it is, that is also getting you to a state of doneness.
Right.
See, all the roads.
All the roads lead to done.
To doneness. Is it done yet?
Are we there yet?
We're almost.
Are we there yet?
It's getting close. 2022 and 2023 are going to show us a very different landscape. We know this. The astrologers have told us this. We're still in the esoteric goo of the metamorphosis process. You know, and I find it interesting too that we are having all of these sort of earthly things that are happening too, like floods and fires and earthquakes and all over the world, and volcanic explosions.
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
Earth is done as well.
Right.
And she's tipping some people off. I mean, that horrible tragedy that happened the other day with the condo in Miami.
In Florida, yeah.
And just like, I mean, honestly, I was triggered.
Yeah.
Like, when I saw that tower come down, I immediately went back to 9/11. It triggered the shit out of me.
I haven't watched it. Watched it. I won't. I know what happened. I don't need to.
Oh,
I don't need the visual.
No, it really did. And
but I have heard a lot of
it.
people say that.
No, and I was surprised by that.
Right.
Like, just how emotional I got in that second.
Right.
And, you know, that oh my God moment, you know. And again, you know, because, you know, there's going to be a lot of blame and things falling around. And then, of course, you know, there's always the bigger perspective of, you know, why things happen, to bring attention or to allow releases or whatever. And then there's this whole infrastructure deal, right? And so then, of course, then there's that whole, that's a coinkydink. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can go with that. But how about if we just go to the place of, are we done with these types of tragedies that can be prevented through maintenance, through full disclosure? I mean, from what I heard, this has been going on for 34 years.
Right.
You know, why was this not?
Well, it was a total structural failure.
Right.
And unless it's intentional or is occurred by a catastrophic event, it's taken a heck of a lot of time to get there.
Oh, of course it did.
You don't get a total structural failure like, you know, you're good one day and the next day, unless something happens to it.
Right.
Outside forces, then it's been around. It's been a problem for a while.
Yeah.
And
a problem that has not been addressed.
Right.
Where might that relate in your life?
No.
Problems that haven't been addressed for 34 years now have come to a critical point.
Now have fallen.
Yeah. Collapsed.
No.
Honestly.
So,
and I am not making light at all of that tragedy.
No.
But it is really a glaring and brutal example of just how these things can show up in your life. They can be subtle, or they can be a building collapsing on top of you.
Well, I agree with you. I don't belittle it at all. There's still, I believe, at least today while we're recording, 100 people or more that are still missing.
Yeah.
And that are not accounted for. And so, you know, it's going to be tragic.
Yeah.
when as things continue to move through. One of the things you and I talk about being an observer, right? And using meditation to observe ourselves, watching the world, observing the world. And I think that when you sit in the place of observer, you have the opportunity to connect and learn from things that don't directly impact you.
Right.
Right? So I don't need to have a traumatic experience happen to me. If I am an empathetic observer and aware of what is happening around me, then I can be aware of that and have that be an impetus for me to do something, to look at, even if I can't control or affect anything in that situation, I can look in my life, just like you said, and say, this resonates with me. I feel this. Why do I feel this? Is it simply because I feel the trauma and the heartbreak and the pain? Is it because it connects with another situation or experience for me? Is there an awareness that I can gain from this? Because we are the energy of the universe. You, me, we are. All of us are the energy of the universe. So if we can take these types of events and turn them into us and say, how does this affect me? And how can I make it better, even within just myself? Then that causes a ripple and a change of energy. And if you can help externally, physically send money. Just inside is powerful.
Yes.
It is powerful.
Amen, sister. Amen.
So I'm going to step off my soapbox.
No, but that is so brilliant and powerful, those words. It is absolutely a truth that you speak there. Because, connect.
Right.
Connect within.
Right.
And it's all about growth. We know that. But sometimes creation comes after destruction.
Yes.
Right? Death and rebirth.
Yes.
And we are empathetic beings. We are social beings. We as much as we might, humans, we are all still here
together. It's
too
people-y out there today.
People-y, but inside my heart, I've got room for everybody.
Right.
Right? Right. And these are the kind of things that I think are, when we say we're done, again, death, destruction, but they all lead and create new pathways for growth.
Right.
For rebirth, for new creation, for new creative juices to flow. I can't wait to see what new changes come into play as a result of this tragedy. Because they will.
Right.
Because we will demand that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And whether there was any fault to be blamed or not doesn't matter. As much as the catalyst to change that gets created.
Right.
Through this, right?
And I think we can sit in blame and fault too much, which we do sometimes.
How does that help? Really? Right?
But yes, the catalyst that this event, and
all these events,
right, all of them,
and they breed that resiliency. We pick ourselves up, we find a better way, we move on. That's where we find ourselves right now.
Fall down 1,000 times, get up 1,001 times. I can't tell you how many times I've said that to myself as being a mother.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Being a human. I say that a lot too.
Well, this is true. Yes.
So, sometimes you're just done and sometimes that's okay. And sometimes you're just done and that's not okay. And that's okay. Because it's all okay.
Right.
If, the biggest thing I think we need to be done with is judgment.
Yeah.
I'm serious about this. Judgment of ourselves, judgment of others. I'm so tired of the judgy McJudgers. I'm tired of being a judgy McJudger.
Right.
I'm ready to lay that down. I don't want to pick that sword up anymore. I don't want to fight that battle another day. Because as I turn that within and I deal with my own internal crap, I find less outside bothers me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The more peace I have within,
right?
The more I am peaceful on the outside.
Tolerance you have with that.
Yes.
I'll say it. The more tolerance I have with that. It's true.
Then people are going to do what they're going to do, and you're just going to be
you.
All right.
Yeah, and I know we talk about this. I know I say it to myself all the time. Everybody has the right to show up and be themselves and do their thing, and that is true. And we've all been given the collective opportunity to say, and, which I was listening to somebody talk, I think it was an astrologer, and they were talking about how you can sometimes trigger people by saying no or not like that, and I guess they were talking about like in acting. And so in acting, instead of giving someone critique that uses a negative, because it will just shut them down and then that stops the creative juices from flowing, and in acting you need to have that confidence in order for the creative juices to flow, they instead say yes and. And I thought, oh, that's brilliant. Now I've heard this, and we do this in hypno, but yeah, let's apply that in so many places.
Right.
So now instead of saying no or not or I don't think so, I'm going to go yes and
not saying but.
And I don't like yeah but anyway.
Yeah.
Always, never, yeah but. Those are the ones that I really tend to shy away from, and have abandoned my home, quite frankly. Even with myself, I catch myself sometimes. But the yeah but's probably the worst. Yes and. Now that.
Right.
So I'm done with the but.
And
I'm embracing the and, because that keeps me moving forward.
Right.
Instead of shutting myself down, shutting someone else down, shutting something down. We've talked about this before. I don't believe that, Source ever wants to fracture a soul or cause it irreparable harm. So if that's the case, then the universe, Source, God, whatever, is a yes and entity. Without a doubt.
Right. Yeah, I pretty much have to live there.
Yeah.
Because anything else doesn't work for me.
And you found that out the hard way, didn't you? It was a little bit challenging.
I think we always find out the hard way, don't we? But yeah, sometimes I need a 2x4 once or 20 times. But yeah, yes and. Absolutely. It's the only way that life makes sense. It's the only way that is by living by that idea.
And so what did I get out of this Mercury retrograde? It sucked. Yes, it did. And I learned some things, and I'm ready to move on from that new space.
Right.
How about you?
Oh, yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
And absolutely.
See how well this flows?
That's right. Try it. This is your homework.
There you go.
We have been trained as coaches too.
Right.
So, it was terrible internally, mentally, emotionally within me, not necessarily outside until the last couple of weeks. You know what? I was reminded of how powerful I am.
Oh, love it.
I was reminded with how Sonia's over here choosing tarot cards. I was reminded with how powerful I am.
This is brilliant, though.
Oh, well, she's got stuff.
So you could be the 7 of Cups.
Okay.
Or you could be the Fool.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah?
Yeah. Which goes back to, we read about the Fool earlier today. We did.
So the Sacred Fool.
Mm-hmm.
7 of Cups. Don't be foolish.
Right.
Don't be doubtful. Don't be indecisive. If you're done, be done.
Be done.
And move on.
And I did come to the realization that I was done. I was done playing small. I was done thinking I had no power over a situation. I was done with that. And wrapped in that, I came to the realization that life is really beautiful. And not that I didn't know that.
Right.
I think we forget.
Right.
Or
well,
I did.
Especially when you're, like you said, laser focused on what's going wrong.
Right, absolutely.
We went out of town last week, and we drove up north. We went someplace we don't normally go, and yet I wasn't paying attention. I was doing other things, and when I looked up, I was so surprised to see that we were there already. Like, I was like, boy, that was a fast trip. It really wasn't.
Right.
But because I was so engrossed in looking down at, the book or whatever I was doing along the car ride, that I wasn't paying attention to the journey until I arrived.
Right.
So there's another metaphor for you.
Dun, da, da, da.
So I guess this week, I don't know what we're going to label this week yet. Maybe yes and.
I was going to say, are you done?
Are you done? Yeah, there you go.
Are you done and? What does that mean?
What does that mean indeed?
What are you going to do next?
And if you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so on our Facebook, Instagram, or email us at inmyexperience1111@gmail.com. We bring it to you every week. We're working on a TikTok.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
We had to wait till we got out of Mercury retrograde, and we are now. And now we're going to look at how we can take some of these and put them into little pearls, little snippets. Jump in that social media TikTok game. Because
if you're not on, seriously, there's some good stuff.
I know,
there.
and I'm not. I'm barely tipping. She's forcing me to get on there. And actually, someone sent me something today that was pretty brilliant. I'm going to show her later. And we are going to expand ourselves, make ourselves a little more uncomfortable by putting ourselves out there a little more, jumping into the young woman's game, if you will, because we want to continue to share. We want to expand what we're having to share, and how we share it.
And we want to connect.
And we do want to connect.
Yes.
Her probably more than me, but we do want to connect.
And this may be momentary, but this is where we are today.
Right now, kind of tired, doing a lot for people. And that was, one of the beautiful things that I got to experience through my Mercury retrograde was that it was okay to not be the messenger, to not be mercurial.
Right.
It was okay. So
love it.
Right?
Love it.
I love it too. So until next week, I'm Sonya Lee.
And I'm Piperlyne. Thank you for joining us. Take care of you.